Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show presented by No House Advantage. Got a nice little 5-game slate today to break down a little 8 p.m. Eastern time lock, so it should be a good one. Hopefully, the injuries aren't quite as crazy as yesterday, but let's talk a little bit about yesterday's slate because there's a lot to digest. I felt like, I, well, let me introduce Adam first. Adam, ShipMyMoney Scherer. Adam, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I was doing better before I knew that I had to talk about what happened yesterday. But yeah, excited for today. It should be a fun sports day in general. A really nice basketball slate, 5 games, a lot of high scoring games. Excited to start the day off talking about it.
Definitely. And I mean, I'm sure the other sport you're interested in is NASCAR Xfinity Series, which is locked in at 5 p.m.
Yes, definitely not MMA.
MMA. Okay. So yesterday I thought I was sitting really pretty because I had Nikola Vucevic, and he went out for like 70. I was like, there's no way he's not gonna be in the winning lineups. But then Embiid, like, I mean, no Simmons, and we kind of figured that when he missed shoot around, but that was just nuts. He had like 90 fantasy points. Did you have enough Embiid?
Did not have enough Embiid. Zero out of the 4 main lineups I played was not enough Embiid. Not that I mean I had plenty of other things go wrong as well, but yeah, no Embiid for me definitely was not helpful.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then there was some value plays that smashed, like Willie, aka Guillermo Hernan Gomez. It was a pretty interesting slate, but I'm not exactly hating the chance to get back into a new fresh start, especially did you see the minutes limit thing with Kawhi, Paul George, and Batum yesterday?
I saw the report that they were on an undisclosed minutes limit. I didn't see what they ended up playing or anything. Like my NBA DFS night was over before that game even started, so I was just on Top Shot and completely ignoring the Clippers game.
Nice, man. Yeah, it didn't matter for the main slate, but Kawhi played 38 minutes. He only had like 45 fantasy points or something, so it was more of
Hell
a
of a minutes
showdown
limit.
thing. Yeah, he was limited because he didn't play 40, I
Right.
guess. If it was overtime, I'm sure he would have not played at all. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about today's slate before we really jump into it, though. Guys, if you can hit the like button, and if you're not already a member of the channel, hit subscribe. That will make sure you see all of our videos in your feed on YouTube. And let's get these likes up because I don't want to have to bully anyone later. And then also, I want to mention our sponsor, No House Advantage. So prop betting is a nice way to make some money on some sports betting. And No House Advantage is the best place to do that because you're not betting against other people in DFS style contests. You just pick your favorite props and rank them. And if you get the most right, then you're going to split the prize pool with everyone. So they have a lot of NBA contests each night, and you can download the app or go to nohouseadvantage.com. And the promo code Awesemo gets you a first deposit bonus of $20. So make sure to check out No House Advantage. All right, Golden State at Charlotte's our first game on the slate. And Golden State played yesterday against Orlando in what turned out to be one of the biggest fantasy games of the night, where Kelly Oubre just had a monster game. James Wiseman continues to be out, as well as Kevon Looney. So that's opened up a lot because Wiseman is a pretty high usage guy and gets a lot of rebounds. He's been replaced in the lineup with Juan Toscano Anderson, who's someone that hasn't even been in the rotation all year. So I know it's been a few games since why it seems to really have benefited Kelly Oubre, and last night him having a big game didn't hurt at all. So what have you made of Kelly Oubre now that Wiseman's out?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. For one, there's more usage available without Weissman, and Oubre is certainly someone that will take some of those extra shots. Also, playing more minutes without Weissman, which makes sense without him in the lineup. But then on top of that, just I think, unrelated to Weissman, Oubre started out this year shooting unbelievably bad. Now he's shooting unbelievably well. It's just one of those things where, typically by the end of the year, someone or players end up where you expect them to be in terms of shooting percentage. And if you start out really poorly like Oubre did, typically you'll see a stretch like this where he just can't miss, kind of similar to like what we're seeing with Davis Bertans in Washington as well. So that's played a role in it also. But yeah, it's I think overall a situation where even though you don't expect him to continue shooting at the clip that he is right now, he should still benefit and produce at a higher than normal rate without James Wiseman on the floor.
Nice. Yeah, he's been getting a lot of rebounds and getting a lot of points, so that's been a nice little bump for him. And then Draymond Green has been playing huge minutes. Now his usage is way down this year. His stat on the year is 12.4%. So that's a big decrease from last year, 15.6%. So
The problem was that earlier in the year, or when Weissman's been in, not only is the scoring down for Draymond, but the rebounding's down as well. His block rate was down. You're at least seeing the rebounding and the blocks come back since Weissman came out and Green started playing at center. So that combined with the increased minutes has made him a much better option without Weissman. Obviously, you would like to see him score more, but he does have a 40% assist percentage in the games without Weissman as well. He does, I think, kind of just help Steph Curry get going. He's still a big part of the offense, even though he's not scoring. So I think the increased rebounding and the increased playing time is enough to make him a good option as long as his salary remains where it is.
Awesome. Yeah, that's Green is looking pretty decent tonight. And then Curry and Wiggins, those are the other guys that stand out as possible plays. It's a 5-gamer, so we don't need to necessarily have crazy value. But Curry, he's seen his price come up to 10K on both DraftKings and FanDuel, and he has that dreaded 1 multiplier on Super Draft. So do you think Curry has really earned a 10K price tag? Because I feel like even in his prime, he never really reached that level.
I think he's an interesting one because, well, back in his prime, it was always tough because he would play 30 minutes a night because the Warriors were so good. Now the Warriors have to play 4 quarters to win games. So you're getting him averaging 34, 35 minutes, which is nice. But he's one of those players that's interesting because, like, when you compare him to other 10 to 11K players, his per minute production isn't quite as good. Like, he's around a 1.4 fantasy point per minute guy. When you talk about players, just off the top of my head, like Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic, they're 1.6. So his average projection isn't going to be quite as good as players like that, but his ceiling is so high that, like, if Steph Curry were $9,000 where he projects for around 5x, he would just be like 50% owned every slate because he's going to give you so many games where he scores 60 fantasy points. So it's kind of a player where he has to be overpriced, I think, for his average production. And what that does is it'll end up pushing ownership down in tournaments, which makes him a good tournament play because you know that the ceiling is so high still.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I think that he's scoring way more this year, and it's kind of what we expected with some of the Golden State guys being shipped off or injured. So, any interested in Juan Toscano Anderson, who's been starting, or I'm a little bit worried about the minutes now that they have a little bit more healthy bodies.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned there because, I mean, it's a situation where, like, he's been the guy starting, but we've seen Steve Kerr all season long not really play favorites with his wing rotations. Like, it's basically a hot hand situation. Toscano Anderson last night didn't start the second half. Michael Mulder played the first 2.5 minutes, and then Toscano Anderson came in. I'm not really sure what happened there. He ended up playing 25 minutes total. But on the one hand, there had been games recently where Toscano Anderson would have played a lot more minutes had the game not blown out, and he was getting like 28 minutes in 3 quarters basically. But on the other hand, there are still so many guys here, Kent Bazemore, Damian Lee, that can replace those minutes that at the very least, I think he's a risky value option.
Yeah, we might need some of those tonight because there are unlikely to be. So what about the Charlotte side? We have Devontae Graham listed as doubtful, but Gordon Hayward and PJ Washington should be back for this one. So I would say if PJ Washington's back, that probably Cody Zeller and maybe Bridges a little bit, depending on what lineup they go with. Do you think that going back to the injured list is going to affect anyone?
I think it helps solidify the minutes for Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball. It should also get Malik Monk minutes off the bench, I think. He's priced up enough, 5K on DraftKings. I'm not looking to roster him, but it helps him. I think that Washington coming back, I don't think it necessarily has a negative impact on Zeller. I think it's likely that you just see Zeller get his, around 30 minutes. Zeller's athletic enough that he can be on the floor in this game. And then obviously you have a small Golden State front court. So I don't really see, I mean, they could go to Biyombo. It's not like, I don't really see why they wouldn't just use PJ Washington as the backup center, which makes PJ Washington, I think, really interesting. He's only 5,300 on DraftKings. If you assume you're getting around 30 minutes from him, and that, more than half of those minutes are probably coming at center, those are really productive minutes for him. And his price tag really shouldn't be as low as it is, I don't think.
Definitely, yeah. 5,300 seems a little bit low for PJ, and I don't think we need to remind you guys that he's a cool cat. So he has that going. LaMelo Ball, he has the highest top per moment on the whole site. So people are really excited about LaMelo. I mean, I have to admit, his stats make him look like he could be the next superstar in the league. So do you feel that way about LaMelo, and how do you feel about him in DFS tonight?
Shout out to producer Jordan Klein for selling his Top Shot like last week at like the lowest price possible. Yeah, I think that for one, I think he's really good. For two, I think that he's a good play tonight. I mean, on the one hand, there is some sticker shock because it's still, a rookie at $8,800 here. Who has had inconsistent minutes this season, but he's in the starting lineup now. Devontae Graham is doubtful, so he should play a bunch of minutes. And it's Golden State's played at the second fastest pace in the league over the last month, behind only the Wizards. There's nothing really to dislike here. Like, he's a high usage guy, but he also rebounds really well. He also gets a lot of assists. So guys like that can contribute in multiple ways. Not only does it make their ceiling ridiculously high because they have triple double upside, but it also just makes their probability of at least having a serviceable game higher, because you're not just counting on him to score. Even if he shoots poorly, he's probably going to supplement it with enough rebounds and assists that it's not going to kill you. So I do like LaMelo even at 8,800 on DraftKings.
Same, yeah. And Devontae Graham being out shouldn't hurt him at all with the assists, because Devontae Graham has the second highest assist percentage on the team. So it's a nice little bump there. Now, Gordon Hayward is coming back. He missed one game, so we got to expect him to be full strength. How do you feel about him as play tonight?
I really like the salary on Hayward, especially because he's a small forward. 73 on DraftKings, 7,400 on FanDuel. He's playing 35, 36 minutes a night. He's averaged over a fantasy point per minute, and he really hasn't seen much of a decrease even playing alongside LaMelo. So that was something I was a little bit concerned about with Ball joining the starting lineup. Was he going to take production away from Hayward, because Hayward has been good at getting assists this year as well as scoring, but you really haven't seen much of a drop off when they've played together. So I like Hayward here again, more possessions likely. Yeah, I think that he stands out as a strong option too.
Awesome, I agree. And then Cody Zeller's price is way different on DraftKings and FanDuel. At 6,400 on DraftKings, I'm probably going to not play him, but 5,100 on FanDuel is pretty appealing. So what have you made of center position? Would you get to Zeller on FanDuel?
Yeah, I think it's a really good value. And when you look at what's around him, there's not a ton. I mean, you have whoever is starting for Sacramento is more expensive. Wendell Carter Jr., has his own issues. He's a little bit more expensive. It's not. There's other good center plays, but they're not really priced at the same point as Zeller. So I think that he makes a lot of sense as a value option if you're paying up elsewhere.
Awesome. Next game, we got Lakers facing off against the Heat. A little bit of a NBA Finals rematch, so that should be pretty exciting. And for this one, Dennis Schroeder and Anthony Davis are out. Schroeder due to COVID protocol, and Anthony Davis has that lingering injury. So last game we saw Alex Caruso. He didn't start, but he got big minutes off the bench, while Wesley Matthews drew to start. Now, Wesley Matthews, poor fantasy producer, even when he gets minutes. So I'm looking at Caruso, like maybe he's a value tonight, but I have to know, am I just insanely biased because he's a fan favorite, or is he actually a play?
I think he's a play. I mean, it's not. It goes back to what you were saying last game too, that there's just not a lot of great value on this slate. If you had guys like yesterday with Willie Hernan-Gomez that are going to produce over a fantasy point per minute on average, then Caruso would look worse. But you don't really have that here. It's not a great matchup. It's not an overly appealing game, but I think that with Schroeder out, those minutes open up. With Davis out, there's more minutes and more usage in general. So I think if you're going to get 26, 27 minutes from Caruso, he's